Hello there, and welcome to the Crystal Ball Hour here on KUHS Denver, the stream, my favorite radio station. Thank you so much for being with me today. Been a wild week, right? Been an interesting start to 2021. If you're just joining me for the very first time, thank you. And I want to tell you a bit about myself and about this show. So you probably know me from the Dr. Elisa show, which is on every other Thursday at 11. And yes, I do that show. And then once a month I come on and I have fun with this other side of me. For those of you who are wondering, I actually do have a PhD in Ed Psych, and I put myself through that degree as a professional psychic astrologer. And after a 25-year career as an academic dean, decided maybe I would let that part of me back out of the closet. And that's what this show does. It gives me a chance to talk astrology, to do some channeling, to do some live readings, and to engage you in a different conversation. And in fact, that's what I'd like to talk about for just a bit. What is that conversation that I'd like to engage you in? I'm just checking all my technology here. There we go. So I do bring my crystal balls in, and yes, I read crystal balls. I brought in my tarot deck today because it seems that many of you are a little freaked out by crystal balls, but not freaked out by tarot decks. I also talk astrology, and it seems that some of you think that maybe that's like a once-in-a-lifetime experience you have, as opposed to perhaps an ongoing conversation you have about your chart. So let me just tell you a bit about myself, and then we'll talk about you, because I'm sure you're vastly more interested. I believe that my soul has craved something just out of sight and out of reach most of my life. At times I followed this craving, and at times I had to put my soul out on long-term lease to accomplish something. So, as an academic dean for 25 years, you dress a certain way, you act a certain way, you watch your conversation. Perhaps you also watch how you do your hair. And if you're watching, you can tell I have a bit of a wild thing here on top of my head. And after I'd been at a very straight-laced institution for a number of years, for some reason I put turquoise streaks in my hair and realized that was a message. It was my soul telling me I was done. It was time to move on. I had done nothing wrong. It was a great career. But it was time to do something different, and my soul was craving something different. And sometimes what we have to do is build our life forward from that craving. Being on the radio, that's part of it. Being on this amazing station, KUHS Denver, the stream, is part of it. Talking to you now is part of it. It's all part of listening to my soul. And what I have done now is realize that for many of us, something prevents us from embracing our life craving, our soul craving. That perhaps you want to reinvent your career or your relationships or your spiritual journey. And you know what? That's where astrology is profoundly helpful. That's where working with someone who can get in touch with the other aspects of your life is so helpful. And for you, that's where maybe playing with your own deck of tarot cards or learning to use your own intuitive self better. It's very powerful. So yes, this show is about me doing live readings and doing some teaching, but it's also about you embracing that part of yourself. Many of you have asked me if I actually do readings, if you can actually have a one-on-one with me, and absolutely you can. You can go to my website, elisarobin.com. Robin is spelled with a Y. You can find me on Facebook, and I do what I call SOS readings, or sometimes WTF readings, or just need to chat readings. And I can combine the crystal balls with the astrology, whatever brings you comfort. Because that's the other thing I've learned. Some people understand the language of astrology and it speaks to them. For some people, they want a different language. They want more of a mythic language. They want the story to come from something else. So yeah, you can reach out to me. And just so you know, you wouldn't be alone. I actually contributed to an article that came out recently on In Style magazine about how people are reaching out more and more right now to psychics of all kinds because life is so confusing. And our logic doesn't seem to embrace or give us answers. Our therapists sometimes don't seem to give us answers. Sometimes we just need something else. And hopefully that's what you can get with your favorite psychic, your tarot reader, or your astrologer, who hopefully is me. If you're an astrologer out there, feel free to connect with me today and let me know your thoughts. If you'd like a free reading today, more than just listening to me, go to Facebook and find me on the Dr. Lisa Show, or go to KUHS Radio and you'll find me there, and you can also post questions there. Or go to, perhaps, I'm not sure, Henry Archuleta's, but yeah, you can also go there on Facebook. We have all these places you can contact us. Wherever you're listening, I hope this show gives you a bit of courage on moving forward. Somebody I talked to today told me I was her hero, and I must say that was more moving than any of the accolades I've gotten in any other time in my life. That she watched the road I've traveled and the way I have found the strength and the guidance to reinvent myself. And that is what I'm offering to others, and she found that empowering. Hopefully this show is empowering for you. Please let me know if it is. Okay, so I'm sponsoring my own show, just so you know, which means I get to talk about myself. I also do want you to know that next week on January 28th, Tiffany Schlein will be my guest. That show is usually at 11. We're moving it up to 10:30. It's the Dr. Lisa Show. And she's this absolutely incredible woman, and she wrote the book 24/6. She started the Weeby Awards. She's a filmmaker. She's an author. She's a speaker. She's a wearer of red lipstick and hats, and she's going to be amazing. So make sure you tune in for that. Okay, so it looks like I am live on Facebook, and that means you can actually post in there and ask me questions. Today, because some of you I know are so afraid to do that, I thought I'd go through something a little fun and talk about the positive and negative aspects of every astrological sign. Something easy to know, right? Now, we've talked about astrology on this show, and you know that it's much more than just your sun's sign. There's 10 planets, there's 12 houses, there's 12 signs. An astrological chart is a tapestry. And a reading and a session with an astrologer is much different than any printout you're ever going to get. And it isn't just a, here's who you are, or here's what next week is about. It's about your life journey. So, today, everybody easily knows their sun sign, right? If you were born last month, you were a Capricorn. If you're born from today or tomorrow on for a month, you're an Aquarius. You all know that stuff. So I thought it would be fun to just go through the positive and negative aspects of each sign, because we've got them. And what's really hysterical for me is that often we actually love our negative traits, what are perceived as our negative traits, more than we like our positive traits. And you will see what I mean as we go through this. So, you know, I want to also say Valentine's Day is coming up sooner than you think. And this would be a fun thing to do with your significant other. or your hopeful significant other. And in fact, I will be on the day after Valentine's Day, so we'll do some readings around the analysis of that, so be prepared. But yeah, you get a chance to talk to me free on the radio. So I'm going to do that, but before I do that, I want to tell you why crystal balls for me and why astrology. I did bring my tarot deck, and I have to say that when I very first started reading, I realized I was just channeling. I saw ghosts, I talked to, or dead people talked to me, I knew things, I read energy, and I don't even remember when I got my first tarot deck. And I tried to learn to read by always reading the book and reading the card and memorizing them, and it never quite worked. And then I was out of grad school and still playing with them. And my dog stole my book, left the card, stole the book, buried it in the snow, which meant I didn't see my tarot book until spring. By which time I had understood that they were gateways, they were messages, and that I could knit together their meanings. The major arcana, well, they were a spiritual journey. They were Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, or better yet, a heroine's journey. But the minor arcana, I could look at what a 7 meant and what pentacles meant and weave those together. And those helped me open my intuitive psychic senses. And then they became really profound tools. In some ways, they're like a multiple choice test, right? You go to take the test and you have suggestions of answers. A crystal ball is more like an essay test. Somebody asks you a question, and what you get is a big empty page that you have to fill in. And what I learned was the more I gave myself room to expand, to just receive information, the more information I received. So I moved from my tarot deck to my crystal balls to channeling. And then astrology gave me a whole different language, a language of my soul's journey. And again, using that with my intuition, with the channeling, became a very powerful tool working with my clients. For you, you have to find the one that works for you, which means you may want to learn how to read tarot, or you may prefer astrology, or you may want to work with a psychic, a reader, an intuitive who reads energy, or like my guest Rebecca Rosen, who was on, who's a channeler, who reads people who have passed. Or sometimes I get spirit guides more than I get people who have passed. Maybe that's who you want to work with. Or maybe you want to learn how to do it yourself. Those are all options. I think the ultimate goal is to open up that sense that you have, so that not only your logical brain is working, and by all means we can all use a little more of our logical brain, our critical thinking, but we also have to go with our gut. Does this fit in with my ethics, my morals? Does this fit in with my belief about life? Does this fit in with what my soul is telling me to do? Those two together are powerful partners. So that's sort of my psychic lecture, right? I do want to remind you, if you love the stuff that I do, please go to my website, elisarobin.com, and you'll also find my blogs there. And let me know what you think about my writing, because I've wanted to be a writer since I first read a book. And I'd love to know what you think about my writing. The second novel, as I said, is an editorial. It's a little slower going than I thought it would be. It'll be out soon. The first chapter is on my website. If you read it, Dark Fire is the new book, and you send me some comments or, not grammatical, but thoughts about the first chapter, I will email you. I will send you the second chapter, just so you know. And of course, you can still find The Way of the Well, my spiritual romance, my first one, on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com or anywhere that you buy online books. And much of what I talk about on this show, not the astrology, but the rest of it, is in this book, in a sort of mythic, spiritual, romantic tale. Okay, you're not talking to me yet out there, so I guess I'm going to talk to you for a while. Because I'm not seeing any comments yet. Okay. But I'm here. So, let's talk a little bit about astrology. As I said, every sign has a positive and a negative trait. So if you're an Aries, we love Aries, right? They're adventurous, they're courageous. And Aries can be very, very versatile, meaning they can do almost anything that they put their mind to, and especially their will to. This is a fire sign, sense of will, sense of strength. They're very energetic. It's hard to miss an Aries when they're in the room. They can be the man or woman on a mission. They tend to be very positive. We can get through this, I can do it, we can make it work. Very, very positive, which is one of the reasons they're very popular. And they tend to be very passionate, and so they'll usually embrace any project with their whole heart. If you have a doctor, a dentist, a therapist who's an Aries, they're totally invested in their craft, in knowing what healing is about and how to help you heal yourself. They're very invested in that. And all of that can come off in a different way, right? So Aries, sometimes you do come off a bit arrogant, can we just say that? Sometimes a bit insensitive to other people's emotions. Sometimes a bit stubborn. Now, trust me, I'm an Aquarius, so I can talk about other people being stubborn because we're at the top of the list, right? But Aries are too. And sometimes that's that sense of commitment. And sometimes Aries are proud of that bit of being stubborn. Can be impulsive, can be impatient. And, you know, you have to get that when you're like that, Aries like to argue sometimes. One of my best friends is an Aries, and it took me a long time to realize that she liked me because she would be very challenging and challenge my thoughts and ideas, and I grew a lot because of that. But with all of that strong Aries, it took me a very long time to figure out that she actually liked me. So if you're an Aries, let me know what you think. Do you love those sort of less attractive traits about yourself? And what we know is sometimes the next sign in the zodiac is a response to the prior sign. So, Taurus. What do we love about you, Taurus? And we do love many things about you, I have to tell you. A Taurus is generous. Always, always. They're going to help anybody. They just are. They're very dependable. If you make plans with a Taurus, unlike an Aquarius, they're actually going to probably keep the plans. They're pleasant. They're polite. They're very sensuous. Very, very, most sensuous, not sexual, sensuous sign in the zodiac. Go out to dinner with a Taurus. You'll have a great time. They are persistent. A body in motion tends to stay in motion, right? And they're patient. Unlike Aries, they're patient. And they care about people. And they're a little more in touch with other people's emotions. What's the downside of some of that? Right, a body in motion tends to stay in motion. A body that sits on the couch will never get up again. Yeah, welcome to Taurus. So, stubborn is a different way of saying hates change. Hates change. Will stay just in one place until there's an earthquake that forces them out. A little, not lazy, let's not do that, but needs a bit of motivation. Again, a body at rest tends to stay at rest. They can be a little materialistic, but again, remember, somebody who's that sensual loves to be surrounded by beautiful things. You can see how those weave together. And perhaps a bit possessive, just a bit jealous, just a bit resentful of the success of others, or the life of others. Just a bit. Come on, Taurus, I want to hear from you. Ooh, Quayle, you are in the box, so let's take a break. Taurus, I'll come back to Gemini. Quayle, it's so good to hear from you. You just want a reading. So, oh my gosh, your guide is coming through so strong. I always remember, Quaylee, you have very, very strong guides. Your guides are telling me that, whoa, have you just started something new? There's something new about to launch in your life. They're very positive about this new direction for you. It might be something you're still sort of sitting with, stewing with, thinking about, but that it's about to open up and move forward. They want you to know that both messages are true. Patiently forward, that's what they're saying. So move forward, but patiently. Stay open to other information you may get so that you're not rushing forward. There's also something about them wanting to tell you you're safe, that you're going to be okay. So, you know, it's such a fearful time, I know, and there's so many things we're afraid of. I think they're saying, though, that you're in a better position than you believe yourself to be. To give this, you know, Mars is in Taurus, hanging out with Uranus, people are angry. Don't absorb that. Don't look at the fearfulness around you as your fear, because you are really feeling, you're in a safe place. Your guides are there for you. Quali, let me know if that rings true for you, please, and let me know if that makes sense, if you need a little more, if you need a little more explanation. But thank you for asking for a question. Okay, talk to me, Quaylee, in the site. Meanwhile, I'm going to go back and talk about Geminis, because you know Geminis are impatient. We love Geminis. We always love Geminis. You know why? Because Geminis are fun. It's probably their best trait. You guys are just fun. We love you. And you talk a lot, and that's okay because you're fun. And you're adaptable. There's two of you, right? You're twins. You're versatile. You're interested in everything. Geminis love to learn. You're enthusiastic. You're lively. You're witty. You're intellectual. All lovely, lovely, lovely things. And sometimes you're just a bit inconsistent because you're interested in everything. A lot like Aquarians, right? Like you can just move on to the next thing. Sometimes a true Gemini is missing the details because they're seeing so much of the, like, you know, all the forest and hardly any of the trees. Being constantly of two minds can make decision making just a bit challenging. Not an insult here, just saying. And they get bored really, really easy, so they're always biting off more than they can chew, and they can get anxious. And in fact, if you're in love with a Gemini, a true Gemini, or maybe a Gemini moon, don't let them get bored. Biggest failing, right? If you're a Gemini, let me know. Come on. We love you still, right? How much of that supposed negative side do you embrace? Just checking in the site here, just seeing who's saying what. Okay. So, where are we going? Next, Cancer. Let's go to Cancer. Oh God, Cancers are so creative and so loving. They're always going to feed you, and they're going to feed you well. They're very intuitive. It's a water sign, so all the water signs are very, very intuitive and very in touch with their own emotions, and sometimes your emotions. They're faithful. They're loving. They often are so faithful and loving they don't expect anything in return. And while they can seem sort of distant, they really are deeply, deeply attached to people, which means don't betray them. And in Cancers, we love you. You can be a bit moody. We know that, right? You can be a bit pessimistic. Unlike the Aries, who's coming from will, this is coming from emotion. And you can be an empath and picking up the emotions around you. You can be just a tad clingy. Can I say that? And suspicious. Maybe imaginary fears. And because you're such a lovely emotional sign, sometimes you can be just a little overly emotional, right? And yet, we love you for that. And so this part of this is, who are you in relationship with? And understand that those perceived negative traits are just the extension of those positive traits, and something that you also come to love and recognize, and that we recognize in ourselves. We don't try to get rid of them. We embrace them, and we understand. We absolutely understand that this is where I go too far. This is where I need to understand myself a bit deeper. Just check in to see how many of you want to chat with me. Quayle, please let me know if that reading made sense to you. Okay, Leos. Somebody else we love, right? We just adore Leos, don't we? And Leos adore themselves, don't they? I mean, they have that lion's mane around them. They're kind, they're helpful, if they're in the room, they're taking over. They're the leader, and we want them to lead because they do it so well. They're energetic, they're optimistic, they're straightforward, they're loyal, very loyal. One of my best friends is a Leo, very loyal. And a bit headstrong. Don't challenge the queen of the pack, right, or the king of the pack, without good reason. They're a bit headstrong, a bit committed, a bit egotistical. But what you have to get is when they're so willing to stand in front of a crowd, they need to have a strong ego. Yes, they can be a little possessive, not really jealous, just a little possessive, and a little dominating. But yeah, they're the queen and king of the jungle, so who wouldn't be a little dominating, right? Again, a little impatient, a little arrogant. I want it now. I want what I want when I want it. Again, one of my best friends is a Leo, and what I've learned is to love those parts of herself. Here's what I have finally learned about friendship and love, is seeing somebody be everything they are and loving that, and knowing that I can love that. When my Leo friend is impatient, it's because she's moving forward, and she'll slow down. I usually tell her to take a bite of some food and a drink of water, and she slows down. And I'm an Aquarius, she's the opposite. So opposites honestly bring out the best in each other often. Okay, Quayle. We're trying to figure out for an update on your massage education. Okay, so you're wondering if you should leave a job until you have the other. Okay, this is probably what your guides were trying to tell you. Move forward, but do it slowly. So this is not the jump immediately. The license will work out, yes. Building the practice will work out, yes. There's another something that you're going to add to it. I don't know if it's readings, because I have a feeling when you're doing massages, you're going to get readings from people's spirit guides or from emotions trapped in their bodies. So you need time to deepen that practice. What I see you doing is actually maybe going half time in one career and then sort of moving over, maybe 3/4, and then building the massage, and then half and building the massage. You're definitely headed that way, and you will be leaving the other job, but it isn't urgent to leave it now, right? That I think that's what your guides were trying to say. Yes, move forward, but at a reasonable pace. So I hope that helps. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Where were we back here? Oh, you know where we are? We're on KUHS Denver, the stream on the Crystal Ball Hour, and you are listening to me, Elisa Robin, from the Dr. Elisa Show. You can find me at elisarobin.com if you want a one-on-one reading, and I do those. Yes, I pull your chart. If you don't know your time of birth, we will talk to your spirit guides, crystal balls, tarot cards, whatever works for you. But astrology is one of my preferred methods. Why? Because it talks about your soul's craving. It talks about what you're called to do and pulled to do. And right now, in this crazy time, we all need that kind of comfort. So yes, I still have time to book readings and sessions, and I'm adaptable, in terms of mornings and evenings and days. And so You can get in touch with me there. If you get there, you'll email me from my website. You can go to my Facebook site and direct message me, and we can set up a reading that way. Where else can you find me? Oh, Instagram. Oh yeah, LinkedIn. Oh yeah, Twitter. Elisa Robin. You can find me. And yes, we can set up something. Okay, Virgos, I know you're waiting. How funny. One of my other dearest friends, actually my sort of adopted sister, is a Virgo, 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 and we just talked today. And again, what do we love about Virgos? Their attention to detail, their ability to see what perfection should be. They're always wanting to learn more, and it's interesting, they don't believe in living in a fantasy world, and yet they do believe in magic. It's an interesting mix. It's complicated. The Virgo will look for a solution. They'll always find a solution. They always have a plan. They always have a next step. They're reliable. They're trustworthy. And they're modest. If you have a Virgo friend, remind them that they've done a great job. One of my other dear friends is a Virgo. Remind them. Tell them you're proud of them. Point out what they're doing well. A Virgo is somebody who gets like straight A's and then an A minus and says my career is over in college, I've flunked, right? They're the one who's done great for 360 days of the year and then stumbles and thinks the year was a failure. They forget to look at their accomplishments. They're overly critical, mostly of themselves, but trust me, they'll also point out some of what you could do next. They can get fussy. You know how that is, right? They make great graphic designers because of that, because they're kind of fussy and fastidious. Now, it doesn't mean they're neat, but things have to be perfect in their way of being perfect. They can be very harsh. They can be judgmental, right? I mean, we all can do that, right? But because a Virgo sees perfection and knows what perfection is, it can be very difficult for them to accept less than perfection. Just if you're watching me, you know I'm checking my Facebook site to see how we're doing. Again, how do you, if you're in love with a Virgo, get prepared for Valentine's Day, right? Compliment. Let them know specifically what they do well and how impressed you are. And then we come from that into Libra. Why? Because we need to soften those edges. Libra, a sign of romance, believe it or not. They're experts at getting things done. They're tactful. They're romantic. They're charming. They tend to be artists, and if not artists, then in love with the arts, or have artistic tendencies, or a sense of aesthetic that is beautiful. If you're going to go on a date with a Libra, go to a museum or a fashion show. They're fair. They can be very diplomatic. I've seen a Libra fire someone and the person left feeling so wonderful about themselves that they were able to go out and get another job. They know how to do that. Because of that, we sometimes judge our Libra friends to be just a tad superficial. And if you're a Libra, come on, chat with me in the site and let me know. They can seem detached because this is not a sign that emotes, that demonstrates deep feeling. But again, they're romantic. They can be poets. But they also will just be pleasant. They might resolve an argument just so that they don't have an argument, because they don't like the energy of that. They can be unreliable, but so many of us can, right? This is an Aquarian over here talking. Why? Because it doesn't feel right. Now, you know, if you're working with a Libra and you've made plans, they're going to show up, but they might just change their mind about what they have to do. And the hardest thing, right, for a Libra is to have an opinion and stick to it. They're air signs, so you know all of us air signs have our own sort of wacky side to us. For a Libra, it is what do I really commit to and care about and adore, and Now, remember that there's 10 planets, right? You have a rising, you have a moon. There's 10 planets, there's 12 houses, there's 12 signs. You're not only your sun sign. This is the part of you that goes to work. This is your ego self. But if you're a Libra with 6 other planets in Scorpio, you're more Scorpio in many ways than Libra. So just remember, this isn't all that you are. And would love to have one of you sort of chat with me in Facebook and let me know if this is making sense, if you're liking this. Not sure. Okay, just checking in with you all. All right. So, what does that bring us to? One of my favorite signs, I have to say. And most people's not favorite sign. Can I also say that? Scorpio. This is a great example of a sign that sort of loves what the rest of us consider its dark side, right? Scorpio, focused. You do not easily divert a Scorpio from what they intend to do. They are on target. This is a deeply emotional sign. It's the water sign. Scorpios feel their emotions deeper than any other sign in the zodiac. They feel it physically. If you have a Scorpio moon, you understand this. If you have a Scorpio rising, you might understand this. It is as if the first time you lose a dog, you have to put a dog down. It feels like someone took a knife and shredded your chest or cut you open and you're bleeding. There's a physical response. Because of that, they have to sort of feel bad things occasionally to get over it, to like, no, that's the worst that it can be, and I can get through it again. Regardless of how difficult a situation is, they're brave. In the moment, they're brave. They tend to be emotionally brave. Right? They stand for people. They stand with people. They're willing to open their hearts. Though, again, they're suspicious, so maybe slowly. I have to say that Scorpios tend to be fairly balanced, and they're incredibly faithful. If you fall in love with Scorpio, let me rephrase that. If a Scorpio falls in love with you, do not betray them. If you have a friend that's a Scorpio, do not betray them. They're very loyal, and they also can be done when they're done. They can be ambitious in a lovely sort of way, which means that they learn their trade. They become successful. They do wonderful things. That's a lovely form of ambition, and they're very intuitive. In fact, they might just be reading your mind. All the water signs can do that. They're that in touch with other people. So, what is it we wonder about Scorpios? Everybody will say to me, isn't Scorpio the sign that loves sex? And I've said this to you before. If they were the only sign that loves sex, all of our parents would be Scorpios. All the signs love sex. For Scorpios, it is perhaps an art form, perhaps recreation. It's something that's another way of expressing themselves. The way a Taurus is sensual, yeah, Scorpios, if they let themselves, and if you let them, can be very beautifully sexual. They can be possessive, but they have a tendency to just leave instead of being jealous. It's hard for them, a pure Scorpio, to trust easily. So, don't betray them again. And they do tend to dominate when they're around. Now, again, where is that Scorpio? Here's the other thing. Remember we talked about 12 houses? If your Scorpio's in your first house, your Sun Scorpio is in your first house, those traits, in fact, all of these traits, if the Sun is in your first house, this is going to be very, very evident because first house is ego and Sun is ego. But what if these traits are in your fifth house, the house of fun? Well, then you might play out all of these elements in a more lighthearted, fun way. It's why it's hard to just read a sign. It's why it's so incredibly difficult. And I have to say, that there's so much richness. I'm going through this kind of quickly, right? But there's so much richness in knowing these aspects of yourself. People will ask me, well, can a Scorpio get along with an Aquarius? Well, you know, it depends. What's that chart look like? And what's the other chart look like? And does that Aquarian have some Scorpio? Does the Scorpio have some Aquarian? Where are there's other connections? And so one of the other things I do for people, you might think about this as a Valentine's Day gift is for next month, is I can have two people on a Zoom and do a composite chart. I take, you know, chart A and chart B, and I put them together. And in one chart, I look at the connections. It's a synergy chart. And in the other chart, the composite chart, we run a chart that is a chart of the relationship itself. Not how the two of you react, but of the relationship itself. I need to just grab a drink of water here. Colorado does get so dry. So, be a great gift for Valentine's Day to take a look at a relationship. You can also do it alone if you're struggling in a relationship. Some of my clients meet somebody new, and we'll pull that person's chart and take a look at the two charts together. It's always fun. It's never a guarantee because there's always free will and choice, and people play their charts out differently, right? I don't know if I told you the story, but I met somebody once who had my exact chart, as in they were born 2 minutes after me or something. And I couldn't stand this person long, right? At first we just like really understood each other, and then I called a friend of mine and said, am I that annoying? And it was a guy, and a guy plays out his chart different than a woman, and he had different life experiences, and so yes, we might have the same chart, but then we have choice. Okay, anyone else asking for a question? I guess not. And you're not even arguing with me. Wouldn't that be fun if I had a Scorpio come in here and say, I don't like sex and I'm not possessive? That would be that'd be a trip, I gotta tell you. Okay, Sagittarius, let's go there. Sagittarius are the adventurers of the zodiac, the gypsies. They love to travel. They are very brutally honest, usually, not always. They're very intellectual. They love compelling conversations. This is the sign of the philosopher, of the bard, of the storyteller, of the gypsy. And because of that, they can be a little careless with other people's emotions. They can take things for granted, assume that you're going to take care of the details for them. They also can be a little tactless, and I do have to tell you that I do love Sagittarian energy, and yeah, sometimes you guys and girls and in-betweens and others open your mouth and stuff comes out that's really fascinating. So because they're focused on another vision, they're focused on something forward, they're very, very confident in themselves and do like to tell you that. If you know somebody with a Sagittarius rising, I have to tell you, these are talkers. These are people who think aloud. In fact, a lot of Sagittarians do that. It's not that they don't think you have something interesting to say. It's that they're engaging and they love to talk and they're thinking while they're talking. Especially if they're extroverts. And that's the big difference between introvert and extrovert, right? Introverts think about it and then we talk. Extroverts talk about it and then they think. No insult intended. That's just how we do it. Capricorns, and who doesn't love a Capricorn? Capricorns have the most beautiful form of ambition you can ever see. They set big goals. I have never met a Capricorn who did not like to use their hands. Build things like an engineer, knit, craft things, cook, talk with their hands, anything. Love to use their hands. And very good at like being engineers, and considering the facts before they take action. Being disciplined where their goals are involved, not perhaps in the rest of their lives. Definitely not impulsive. This is the other sign, like Taurus, that we like to say a body in motion stays in motion. Body at rest never moves again. And sometimes you'll find Capricorns are afraid of slowing down for just that reason. they are afraid that they'll never get going again. This is a sign that can suffer from pessimism and, in fact, depression. Goats do not easily change their views, a lot like bulls. And, you know, they tend to like the company of the same friends over and over. And while it might be easy for them to sort of be gregarious and meet people, they tend to stick with a set group of friends. They're not shy. They like consistency. They like knowing they can just be who they are without change. And again, you know, these earth signs, all the earth signs, difficult to get them to change. Difficult to get them to look inward. Aquarius, clearly the best sign out there, right? The goddess loves Aquarians, right? Since you're not arguing with me, I guess I get to say stuff like that. Let me just peek in and see if anyone else wants another reading here. I guess not. I know, I'm hypnotized you with my voice. Okay. Aquarians, what are our positive traits? We are friendly. We are the humanitarians of the zodiac. We love to learn about everything and anything. We tend to be very creative, and nothing is more boring than monotony for an Aquarian. We tend to be incredibly independent, both emotionally and financially, and we are, in the end, the rebels of the zodiac, always, without rhyme or reason. Now, you may think of a rebel as somebody who's breaking the rules. Sometimes it just means we didn't notice there were rules. I joke that I am incapable of baking brownies if I follow the directions on the box. But if I, you know, do a riff off, I do like a jazz routine on my brownies, then yeah, they're great. I have no idea what that is. And I will say we're loyal. If you've got a friend who's an Aquarius, we're in. We're in it. And we will tend to understand you, though occasionally we may walk away because you're having a bad day, and we'll let you get over it. So we are not predictable. Can I just say that and own it? I am completely unpredictable, and this is where you get the part where we love the negative parts of our sign. You're right, I'm unpredictable. In fact, somebody the other day told me I was being predictable, and I changed everything I was doing. We can be inconsistent. If you tell me you need me, I'll be there. If we have plans, they might be fuzzy. Detached, yeah. Aquarians tend to think that emotions are just a little bit dirty, you know, just a little bit difficult to deal with. We'd rather stay on our heads. Stubborn. My mother used to say it was easier to put toothpaste back in the tube than to get me to change my mind. Though I'll listen. I'll listen to other points of view. I absolutely will do that. We're good listeners. We're not good changers. And we do come across as being aloof. Again, it's the detachment, the not emotional piece. You know, like when everybody else sees a baby and goes, oh, we might go, oh yeah, cute. It's just sort of a thing. And we're in stuff often all the way to give it a try, to see if that'll work. I've changed careers 3 times, right? I've got graduate degrees in 3 different topics. Let me go try that. Let me go learn that. And I kind of love that about myself. So you got to have an Aquarius out there who wants to cheer this on, right? Come on, let me just take a look. Because I'm here and you guys could ask me questions, and I'm just going to go into Facebook and update all these different sites and see if any of you want to ask me a question. Last sign of the zodiac is Pisces. And Pisces are so lovable. We're all lovable. We're just lovable in different ways, right? Pisces is imaginative. They're creative in kind of a dreamy kind of way. They may not think of themselves as creative. They're absolutely kind to the point of not taking care of themselves. They're compassionate. They always want to help. They're always going to want to make sure that everybody else is happy. This is the person who feeds everybody else and then forgets to eat themselves. They're powerfully intuitive but may not admit it and may not want to think about that part of themselves. They're very selfless and very, very sensitive. And they're soft-spoken and they're soft-hearted. And because of that, Pisces, what do you need to learn to do? You need to stop escaping from life, right? Like, sort of have that escapist. If something doesn't work for you, you tune out and turn away and just walk away. You also have a sense somehow that you're not really capable, that it was bad luck, or you weren't born with talent. So even things aren't easy, that it's hard for you to keep going. You know, fish don't swim against hard walls, they swim in water. They can be overly sensitive, can we say that? Sometimes very easy to insult a Pisces. And they can be very pessimistic. Along with Capricorns, right? These are some of the signs that you say you might have some depression issues and definitely just some sadness issues. And I have to say, what I always want to tell a Pisces is ask for what you need. Ask. Here's the dilemma for a Pisces. They know what you need, and they make sure you have it. And then, because they're very psychic, and then they assume that you're equally intuitive and know what they need and will give them, fulfill their needs. And of course, you don't know what they need because they didn't ask for what they need, and now their feelings are hurt. Pisces, ask for what you need. Just ask. Okay, let me see how we're doing out there. I am looking at a Facebook site with no one chattering with me, and that's just kind of funny. I'm kind of wondering. Carol, you're out there, you're watching, I hope, and if you have a question, let me know. And I'm just in here checking the site to see if any of you, be more than welcome to disagree with me if you're an astrologer out there. And I know that astrology is something that people feel like they don't know enough about, which is one of the reasons I try to teach stuff on this show. And so let's talk about, okay, Carol, should you continue with this new direction? Yeah, stuff is hard right now. Carol, let me just say that. Your guide is coming through very strong on my left. I think that you have a lineage issue going on. Because of the direction this is coming from. A lineage issue to me means judgment from family, judgment, sort of falling into old behaviors and patterns based on what we were taught. Often with the change of the planets right now, the major planets going from Capricorn into Aquarius, for many of us, we have to look sort of with curiosity or even suspicion about the things that we have been taught to believe about ourselves, the things that maybe we are sure of about ourselves but actually aren't true. And that's what I'm picking up from you right now. What are the assumptions you've made about yourself for years that are not true and that really you shouldn't own, they shouldn't bother you. You shouldn't make choices based on them. It feels to me like there's a lineage issue that you're being challenged to stop and look at the direction you've chosen and the way you've chosen to go that way. Things are hard because things are everyone's having a little bit of a struggle right now because of what's going on. But for you, the direction is okay. The way you're going there is difficult. You're making it more difficult for yourself. Your guide is saying you're just listening to old voices in your head. What I'd like to do, what your guides would like you to do is take a few minutes to take some time to look at your own pattern and to change that pattern. To ask yourself yes, the direction is correct, but the way you're doing it follows an old pattern and is making it harder. I hope that makes sense. And I'm hoping you're listening to it in the live feed, so I'm hoping that made sense. And guess what? It is just about an hour, and we are done. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Quayle and Carol, for asking me questions. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone else, for listening in. Again, I'd love to do a more intimate personal reading for you. You can find me at elisarobin.com. We can do a half an hour. If you tell me that you heard me on the radio, I will give you a 15% discount. Just mention it to me when you contact me. You can pull your chart. We can talk to your guides. Can help you through this time because it's hard for so many people. All right? Again, my point, the whole reason I'm on the radio is to ignite a renaissance of spirit within you, to help you feel inspired, and to help you walk, to find, embrace, and live your soul's craving. So please, until next week on Thursday, when you tune in at 10:30, let yourself ignite that inner flame. Stay inspired. Stay inspired. Stay safe. Stay well. But please, stay inspired because your soul is talking to you and you are ready to embrace and live your soul's journey. Talk to you next week.